listening to Cooper Talk.
Welcome to Cooper Talk. I'm your host, Steve Cooper, and remember, I'm only as hip as my guest. And we have a great guest today. You know, his band Dexys, they have an album coming out July 28th called The Feminine Divine. And I just saw one video. He has a really nice red suit. And with their big hit in the 80s, Come On Eileen, was the reason why me and all my friends in the 80s wore overalls. They brought overalls back. And my guest is Kevin Rowland. How you doing, Kevin?
Very good, Steve. How's it going?
I'm doing well. So let's talk about the new album. First of all, the video, I'm going to get free. It's a fun video. Where did you shoot that at?
Bethnal Green, which is an area in East London. It still is a kind of a working class area, but it's becoming slightly gentrified, but it's not that gentrified, you know. And yeah, it's just a typical sort of UK high street, you know. So that was the vibe we wanted, me basically walking down the high street singing.
Where'd you get the red suit? Because that's a sharp-looking suit. That's cool.
Thank you. I designed it myself, actually, and had it made.
So you come up with all of, I mean, tell me about designing. What's it like to design a suit? I mean, I've never met, people who've designed suits, really.
Well, it sort of usually comes about organically. I'll buy a pair of trousers and think, these are okay, but I want them a bit wider here, a bit narrower here, or whatever. And I'll buy some fabric, go to a tailor and say, same as these, but with these modifications. Same with the jacket. I found a friend of mine had a jacket that was considerably longer, and I don't think it was double-breasted, actually. I think it was, single-breasted, I think. Yeah, single-breasted. And, he got it it was an American jacket, actually, from the 70s. And I just said, I love that jacket. Can I buy it off you? And he went, yeah, okay. So we did a deal, and I had the jacket. But then I thought, it could be better with this. So I had a few jackets made until I got the right one, you know. And, that's what I did. That's how I made it.
Now, tell me about that song. I'm going to get free. Tell me what you were writing about that song. Because your album, the song, The Feminine Divine, is very deep and it's very powerful. But where did this first song come from, I'm going to get free?
Well, it was originally a song we had laying around ages ago, years ago, decades ago, actually. And we got a few, but we just we just didn't use it for whatever reason. It didn't feel right to use it. And right about now, it felt right, So, and what it's about, just breaking out, of self-made restrictions, depression, what you think other people think about you, just breaking out of your own mind-made bondage.
Now, this album, it's your first album in a while. Why such a long delay?
After the last album, I think I just kind of felt a bit drained. We were dealing with a major, and a lot of that was all right, but sometimes I found it quite taxing, and I just was fed up with the music business and just felt quite drained and had to get away. And, I felt stressed out, really, and I think I'm prone to that, getting stressed quite easily, now as well. But so it's always a tightrope, a battle. But and I just didn't have anything to say. I didn't want to do music. I just needed to get away. And then 2020, 21, somewhere around there, I just thought, okay, I got some enthusiasm now. I can write something. I got something to say. I could do music now, and decided to, started writing.
Now, did the pandemic affect your creativity? Do you think it enhanced it, or it was something that it stunted it? Because a lot of people, I talked to a lot of musicians in the beginning, they could see their family. They could, they weren't concentrating on music, and then a lot of them got like a creative spark, I think, because they were inside. They couldn't go out. How did it affect you? Because as you said, 2021, that's when we were, a big part of it. How did your creativity get affected by the pandemic?
I don't know if it did. I tried to ignore the pandemic as much as I could. Not ignoring the restrictions, but just tried not to buy into all the fear that was around, because I got enough of my own anyway, So I just thought it's just gonna, Sorry, I got all kinds of noises going on. Let me shut those other apps down. Um, yeah. So where were we? Yeah, I just sort of tried to shut out all the noise of the pandemic while adhering to the restrictions that were required, you know. But I don't know if the pandemic affected me or not, really. I honestly don't know. I didn't, like loads of people, just sit down and start working, you know, and frantically working just because the pandemic. I know a lot of people did. I didn't. But it wasn't until the end of the pandemic, really, that we started on this.
Now, you said stress, and you said you suffer from stress. I suffer from stress and anxiety, too. I found this great gummy. It's called ashwagandha. It's an herb, and it's actually helped me. I started taking it. It's a legal gummy. It's nothing like, marijuana gummy. But have you always suffered from stress and anxiety? Is that something that you've gone through your whole life?
Yeah, I did, but I didn't know it before. I just thought I used to think it was external circumstances, were making me stressed. I didn't realize it was me. And sometimes I still don't. I still think it's outside things, but they're just triggering me. You know what I mean? It's like, it's me who gets stressed.
Now, how have you learned to accept that and deal with it? Because it is very hard. As you said, you don't know, because you wake up sometimes and you think, oh my God, you wake up in the middle of the night and you're like, oh crap, wait, is this going to get paid or is this? And it's something that you should just be sleeping. I mean, let's be honest, we should just be sleeping, but you wake up like, oh, how have you been learning to deal with it? Because it takes a lot out of you, and people don't know that. It really can beat you up somewhat.
Yeah. Yeah. It does. It really wears you down if you're not careful. I meditate. I meditate in the mornings. I do yoga or qigong, stuff like that. Try and do a little bit every morning at least. Try and take walks, in nature, that kind of stuff. Yeah, all of that.
Now, with the album, The Feminine Divine, tell me about the song The Feminine Divine, where it comes from.
I think I just, realized that out of the blue, really, that I had, my approach, my thinking towards women was wrong, really. I kind of took them for granted, and I just did some reading and some some courses within the last 5 or 6 years, and I started to see things differently. And once I did, that song just came out almost in one hit. All the lyrics just bang, 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 and I just sat down and it just came out.
Now, what is your normal writing process? I mean, you said that came out at one time, but will you sit down sometimes and write, or do you just wait till you get inspired and then you say, okay, this is time?
I'd probably just wait till I'm inspired, which probably isn't a great way to do it. It's probably not as productive as if I just sort of sat down every day. But I'm quite unmotivated a lot of the time, Sometimes stress, it's just being overwhelmed, you know what I mean? Sometimes I can't think straight and I don't know what to do and stuff like that. But if I have to do something, if somebody's coming round, I'll get it done, That's why I like writing with somebody else, because if they're coming round at 11 o'clock, I'll be ready. But if they're not coming round at 11 o'clock, I'm probably not going to do anything.
Now, the new album, how long did it take in all to write the whole album and to record it? What was the process? Because now, recording has changed so much. You can record in different places. You can be where you are, some could be somewhere where they are. You don't have to be together. But what was the whole process of you recording this album? Because it's and once in a while, it's been a while. Recording, things have changed. The way people can make albums now has changed. What was the process when you guys were getting together to do this whole thing?
I mean, we didn't do it in the way that people used to, Steve, we didn't do it in the way we used to. The last couple of albums, the previous two albums, we didn't do it that way, like everybody getting together in the studio rehearsing. We did it all separately. And the last two albums were expensive and there was a lot of stress, Everybody, we recorded them both live, everything live in the studio, brass, strings, vocals, all at the same time. Drums, the lot, and we just realised that was just too stressful and expensive. So we happened upon, through Pete Schwier, who's our producer, we happened upon a guy called Toby Chapman, who plays a lot of stuff and programs and all that, and he does it really well. So we just would send him demos, we'd make a demo, and then we'd send him the demo, and we'd say, program this up, but in a different key, change that bit to that bit. And sometimes he put in ideas, sometimes we didn't like them, sometimes we would like them, you know. And eventually we got there. And then I'd record my vocals separately, and we'd record the brass separately. Steve, have you heard the whole of the album?
I've only heard the 2 songs that I had the tracks to.
Okay, you've only been sent the 2 tracks.
Yes. Now tell me about the whole album though, because you're piecing. Because I'm 58, so I come from a generation where we heard a song, and like we'd see a song on MTV, we go to the record store, we buy the album, and we would look at it, and we'd flip it over, and we would hope all the songs are great and they were ordered perfect. And then if, let's say, a cassette had the songs differently, you'd be like, wait a second, that's not the order. I mean, it's just one of those things. When you hear Queen's bicycle, Fat Bottom Girls, hear bicycle races, you go, hey, that's just not right. They connect on the album. How did you put the tracks together? How, at this point, because it's been a while, how do you decide where the tracks go? Because the 2 songs I heard are completely different sounding, and they're both great.
It's a lot more than that, Steve. The album is a concept album. It's a narrative. It's got a narrative running through it. It starts off with a guy who's completely macho around women. Basically, in the first song, he's saying, I'm not saying it's me. It's not autobiographical, but some of it of me is definitely in there. It's personal. But the first song, he's basically saying, if you touch my girlfriend, it means a fight. Then in the second song, he's saying, you know what? That's not really me. I don't really believe all that macho bullshit. And in the third song, he's questioning that more. And in the fourth song, I'm going to get free and coming home. He's breaking out of that. He's moving forward. In the fifth song, Feminine Divine, he appraises his relationships with women. In the sixth song, he gets into a relationship with a woman in a way he never would have done before. And that relationship continues to the end of the album. And it talks about what happens during the relationship.
Now, did you have that all planned out when you were writing it? I mean, because the concept, you hear concept is such a big thing. Or did you just start writing songs and then this concept, you suddenly, a light bulb went off and you went, holy shit, I'm writing a narrative, basically. You're writing a narrative.
Exactly. A light bulb went off. I thought, shit, if I put these in this order, if I put that song there, hang on, these all tell a story. So I thought, it's a no-brainer. And then I think probably I did a few little touches that made it, more cohesive as a journey. But yeah, it was a no-brainer. It came out of the blue. I didn't plan it that way. Just thought, shit. Because why that is, the first couple songs, like the first song on the album, track 1, The One That Loves You, I wrote that 30 years ago originally, that lyric, when I was of that mind, I want you to know that I love you so, I never will falter, I won't let you go, so baby be clear when I say unto you, I'm the one that loves you. So when somebody talks to you and he says things he shouldn't do, well then you just send him to the one that loves you. And then it goes, I'm not denying, baby, I'm not denying you're a very strong woman, but you'll need my help, and there'll be times when you're not so sure. A man comes up to you, he says, how do you do? But you can tell from that look in his eye that he's not just the friendly kind. Well, point that man to me, because he's offended me, and I would like to demonstrate to him Black Irish chivalry. So, baby, is this clear? Baby, don't you know I'm the one that loves you? That's the chorus. So that was my stance 30 years ago. That's how I saw the world and people and girlfriends and stuff, And then, but I'm not there now. So I suppose in some ways it's kind of my journey. A lot of it is my journey. The second song starts with, well, I'm not really sure that's the truth. It's like the guys having a conversation and I go, what? Well, no, that's not really true. To be honest, this is how I feel. And then it goes into the next song. I've tried, It's All Right, Kevin, it's called. I've tried so hard to be a man and now I don't care if I can. My life has been one long fight. He's talking about the struggles of trying to keep up this fight as a man. And then there's more. He starts to move forward. And like I said, Feminine Divine. He sees his relationships with women have been all wrong. And then he gets into a kind of a female-led relationship where she's the kind of strong one. So that's the concept, Steve,
Now, when you're writing that, is it somewhat invigorating? Because you said, well, first of all, what made you change your stance? You know, you said 30 years ago, and we all do grow. I mean, it was a different time to 30 years ago. But was it just something that you think you matured? Or what was it that made you change where now you can look back and say, it's semi-autobiographical, whatever it's called, and I can write about it now and be aware of it?
I think, like I told you, at the end of 2016, I was feeling quite down, and I didn't want to do music, and I was demotivated. And I went to Thailand. I was interested in some courses they do out there, some Tao courses and some Tantra courses. And I started to take those courses, and they started to refer to women as goddesses and all of that. And I'm thinking, what? She ain't a goddess? And then I thought, and as I carried on working, I thought, hang on, she actually is. So a light bulb went on through doing that work, really, that sort of personal growth. And I just decided to write about it.
Now, what are your musical influences? When you were young, what did you listen to? Because your music has a lot of different sounds to it. You know, it's soulful, it's stuff like that. But as a kid, what were you listening to? What were you sitting there? What were your influences?
Everything. You know, pop music on the radio all the time. We didn't have that many records. Tamla was a big one. Tamla Motown, Stax, but also pop. UK pop, American pop, Beatles, Monkees. Elvis was my first when I was a kid, you know, like I'm 10 years older than you. And Elvis, you know, when I was 7 or 8, heard him singing and saw pictures of him. Didn't see him on TV in those days. He wasn't on TV. You had to go to the cinema to watch him, you know. But, yeah, people like that. All of it. Irish music, all music, reggae, all of it.
So what made you decide to get into music? Because, you know, I have a background in stand-up comedy. And I don't know why. I think maybe because I got bullied a few times when I was a kid by these two guys. And I just wanted to express myself on stage and make people laugh because to me it was somewhat of an acceptance. But what made you get into music?
I think I always wanted to do music. You know, from the age of 6, 7, 8, I just thought this is what I want to do. I was always just singing, and I wanted to do it. But I think what happened is, I grew up in this environment where none of my friends were doing music or talk. They would talk about music, but they didn't talk about playing music or being in bands or anything. They would just go to clubs and dance, you know. But yeah, the people who played music were like on another side of culturally. We're on a different side, you know. They were like somewhere else. You know, they were more middle class. What you probably sort of we have working class, middle class, and upper class. I think there your middle class is middle class blue collar there. I don't know.
There's lower middle class, upper middle class, and middle class, and the thing is, blue collar can make a very good living here, so they come into middle class. Basically, in America, we have the real rich ones. Then we trickle down. But middle class can be anywhere across.
Right. Here, it's not about money. It's not about money. It's about class. They call it class, reading. So it's about what your parents did for a living, even if they're not rich. A lot of the middle class are not rich, but they look down on the working class because the working class are largely nowhere near as well educated as the middle class. It's about education and all that here. It's not about money. So we were from a working class background, not poor, but sort of upper working class probably. My dad was an Irish immigrant, you know, to England, and he had his own building company, and he was under pressure. He just started it, but you know, we had our own house and all that stuff. But my mates were, you know, from the working class because I was from a working class background. Those were the ones I identified with, rather than the people who played music in those days would have been more hippie-ish. You know, there wasn't anybody really listening to reggae or soul that I knew and playing that music, or pop even. You know, it was like, oh, well, you got to be, you know, long hair, and that's what was going on. So I didn't think I could get into it. And also I had, my mum it wasn't just that. I had a learning block. You know, when I was 10, my mum bought me a guitar, and I started to learn it. And I went to lessons, had a few lessons, but I didn't have I only had 4 strings on it. It was a weird guitar instead of 6. But I definitely had what they call ADHD now. You know, I just couldn't concentrate. I didn't really learn much at all in school from the age of about 12 or 13. In English, I did, but not maths. And in a way, guitar is kind of maths in a lot of ways. You know, music is maths in some way. You know. So I struggled with that, but I was very lucky when my brother was he learned to play bass and sing, and he was in a band, and it was you know, and the guitar player was leaving, and he said if he said, I'm going to give you 6 months notice, because he was his friend. So my brother said, if you can learn all the songs in 6 months, you can join the band. So that was all the incentive I needed. I practiced a little bit every night, and it was just about good enough at the end of the 6 months. And then eventually I started thinking, okay, let me try and write a song. My brother very kindly allowed me to play, you know, 1 or 2 of my own songs in the set, even though people didn't come to hear our songs. It was a covers band, you know. They wanted to hear the Beatles or Elvis or whatever, you know. But he let me put 1 or 2 in, and then I decided to form a band, you know.
Now, when you formed Dexys, how did you form Dexys Midnight Runners? You know, it's so funny because looking back, first of all, Come On Eileen, everybody knows that song. I always say, if you meet someone who has never heard that song, you're meeting someone who hasn't been out of their house in like ever. But how did the band come together?
Well, we just formed it, myself and Kevin Archer. You know, we decided we kind of knew what kind of song, what kind of album, what kind of band we wanted to form, what the lineup would be roughly, and then we just put an advert in the paper for musicians and just, you know, and auditioned them and formed the band. That was it.
Now back then, was it hard to get a record deal?
You know, the weird thing was, with the first band I had, the punk band, it was ever so hard. And we were always trying and pestering labels to get a record deal and all of that. With Dexys, we didn't try. What we did instead was we all packed our jobs in. In the UK then, you could live on what we call the dole, unemployment benefit. It was enough to live on. Just about. And we all did that, and we rehearsed all day. 5 days a week. We treated it like a job. 10 o'clock till 5 o'clock or whatever it was, 6 o'clock. And we just rehearsed for 6 months. And by the end of that 6 months, we started doing gigs. And people started coming to us. And we phoned 1 or 2 and went down to see, but nothing really came of that. The people just came to us in the end. You know, that seems to be what happens. If you're good, if you work hard and you're good, you've got a good chance of, in England at least anyway, I can't speak for anybody else, anywhere else, but that's how it was then. You've got a good chance of people wanting to check you out, you know.
Now, how exciting was when you got to go into the studio to record your first album? Was it something that you worked your ass off? It's funny, you said you were on the dole, but you were actually working. I mean, that's the thing. It wasn't like you were just sitting there going, oh, whatever. You were treating it like a profession. You were saying, this is like a 9-to-5 job, but we're not stuck behind the desk. So what was the payoff when you got into the studio? Did you know exactly what you were going to do, or were you a little bit intimidated because all of a sudden it was the studio and it's an album?
No, we rehearsed well, and we had a good producer at that point, Pete Wingfield, and we knew he'd do a good job, and he did do a good job with the first album, you know. We knew, yeah, and we were well rehearsed, you know. So it was just a matter of capturing the spirit, really.
Now, Come On Eileen hits. Did you ever have an idea, and most people don't, did you ever have an idea it would have a magnitude in just that everybody knows that song? I mean, what were you thinking of when you wrote that song?
I wasn't thinking about the results. I wasn't thinking about what would happen. I thought this could be a really good one. I thought this one could be a hit if we get it right. And it did. It just came about like magic, you know. We put all the work in, and then all of a sudden, at the end, it just sort of finished itself up. And but I didn't think. I thought it would do well. I thought it could do really well, but I didn't. I mean, we didn't think about America or anything like that. It was never in our. You know, it was just we didn't really think about America. We were just thinking about England.
So it hits. How does your life change when that song hits? Because that song blows up.
Yeah. Well, it opened a lot of doors for us, you know. And all of a sudden, my life became very, very busy, you know. For the next year, 18 months, 2 years or whatever, it was just touring or promotion or whatever, you know.
Now, I want to ask you, Top of the Pops. Everyone grows up in England watching that. What was it like when you get to play Top of the Pops? What is that like for an artist, especially for you? You grew up, you see Elvis at the cinema, but you probably watched Top of the Pops. What is that like for an artist?
Every week, religiously, everybody watched Top of the Pops in the UK. They were getting 15 million viewers when I was a kid, you know, out of a population of about 35. You know, everybody you knew watched it, except old people, you know. Yeah, anybody who had a passing interest in music watched it because that's all there was. There was no other program on. That was it. Once a week, 7:30. Yeah. Oh, it was daunting when I first went there. I think, Jesus, this is where I've seen Roxy Music, you know, one of my favorites. And all these bands, you know, they've all played here. Wow. Yeah. Daunting.
Did you enjoy it, though?
No, because I was always nervous. But I was never blasé about it. Some bands used to complain, oh, you got to hang around all day. I think, what are you talking about? You're not fucking Top of the Pops, mate. I was always like that, you know.
Now, what's the future for the band? First of all, why did you get rid of Midnight Runners? It's just Dexys now. Was that just a thing you wanted to pretty much rebrand yourself, or where did that come from?
It was a rebranding. It was us saying, it's still us, but we're not a revival band, so don't be expecting us to try and recreate the 80s. But it's still us. But we've moved on. That was it.
So what do you see in your future? What's Dexys' future? You have the album coming out July 28th. What do you want to do in the next 5 years?
I don't know. We've got a tour in September of the UK. We've got a European tour in October. We're looking at a US tour in November. We're looking at dates. It's not confirmed, but we're looking at the feasibility and the possibility we'd like to do that. If this album does well, we may well do another album. We've got some more material. And we've got another idea, concept, completely different for the next album. So, yeah, we shall see.
Are you looking forward to getting on the road? I mean, when's the last time you took on a tour? Is that something you love, the performing live, or what's your view when that's coming up?
2012 is the last time. I'm dreading it. I've got a lot of anxiety about it, singing and all of that.
Why, though? Because people like you. People are paying money to see you, so it's not like with comedy, if you go into a gig and people are, there's always that one prick who has to, try to speak out, and you're like, really, there's 200 people here. Why are you doing that? But with music, people come to enjoy you, and people enjoy you.
Just that whether I can do it or not, whether my voice is going to hold out, or whether all the ideas that I've got in my head for the band and everything are going to work.
Well, I'm going to thank you for coming on today, Kevin. How can people get in touch with? I know you have a Facebook page, the Dexys, but how can people get in touch with you?
Dexys. I think it's Dexys. Shall I just check Dexys.org or something?
No,
I don't know.
They can Google Dexys and they'll find you.
Google DEXYS. Yeah, I'm just checking it now. Dexys.org, is that it? No, it's something else. I don't know what it is. Yeah, DEXYS. Just Google it. All the tour dates or YouTube. It's all on there. The new stuff. Two new tracks so far. We're going to have another one on there in a week or so. So
people, check it out. And the songs are very good. The album comes out on July 28th. The tour is in the fall. So check out Dexys. Check out my website, coopertalk.net. You can find over 960 episodes. You can email me at coopertalk.net. Twitter, I'm at coopertalk. Remember, I'm Steve Cooper. I'm only as hip as my guests. Don't forget, drink your water, eat your vegetables, take your vitamins, and I'll talk to you next time.